The wind cut across the prairie like a blade, sharp and unforgiving, and Eliza Warren stood alone beneath a sky the color of cold steel, clutching the last thread of dignity she had left. 3 days without proper food, 2 nights without shelter, and one final choice standing between her and ruin. Pride had once been her armor. It had kept her chin lifted when the town ladies whispered about her father's debts. It had kept her back straight when the bank took their home. But pride could not warm frozen fingers. Pride could not quiet the ache in an empty stomach. And pride could not stop the snow that now threatened to swallow her whole. The ranch house stood at the edge of the valley like a stubborn sentinel against the wilderness. Dark timber. Wide porch. Smoke rising from a stone chimney. It belonged to Caleb Turner, the scarred rancher no one dared cross. A man carved from silence and survival. A man whose face bore the memory of fire and whose heart, they said, bore something colder. Eliza had sworn she would never beg. Yet there she stood at his gate. Caleb saw her before she knocked. He had been watching from the window, instincts honed from years of betrayal and hard winters. Strangers meant trouble. Trouble meant loss. And he had buried enough loss for one lifetime. When he opened the door, the wind rushed between them. Eliza lifted her chin despite the tremble in her voice. "I'm not asking for charity," she said. "I can work. Cook. Clean. Tend animals. I just need shelter. Until spring." Caleb's scar stretched from temple to jaw, pale against weathered skin. His eyes were not cruel, only cautious. Measuring. "You alone?" he asked. "Yes." He studied her boots, worn thin. Her coat, too light for the storm. Her eyes, too proud to plead. "3 rules," he said finally. "You work hard. You speak honest. You don't run at the first hardship." Eliza swallowed. "I won't run." He stepped aside. That was how she traded her pride for shelter. The first days were brutal. Ranch life did not soften itself for anyone. Dawn came merciless and early. Water buckets froze. Cattle wandered. Fences snapped under frost. Eliza's hands blistered. Her muscles burned. More than once she cried silently into the dark so Caleb wouldn't hear. But he did hear. Caleb had not asked for company. The ranch had been his refuge after the fire that had taken his wife and son and left his face branded with memory. People stared. They always stared. So he had chosen solitude. Yet this woman did not stare at him with pity. She watched him with something else, curiosity, maybe even understanding. One evening, as the sun bled red across the horizon, Eliza nearly collapsed carrying feed sacks twice her size. Caleb caught the weight before it crushed her. "You don't have to prove you're made of iron," he said quietly. "And you don't have to pretend you are," she replied before thinking. The words hung between them. He expected her to apologize. She didn't. Instead, she held his gaze, not at the scar, not away from it, but into him. Something shifted. Days turned into weeks. Snow deepened. Silence softened. They spoke more over supper, about cattle prices, about storms rolling in from the west, about the strange way loneliness crept in louder than wolves at night. Eliza learned Caleb whittled small wooden horses in the evenings, though he claimed they were useless. She learned he still set 3 plates at the table sometimes before catching himself. And Caleb learned Eliza sang when she thought no one listened. Old hymns her mother used to hum. Songs about mercy and second chances. One night, the storm came fierce and sudden. Wind tore shingles. A calf broke loose. Caleb rode out into chaos without hesitation. Eliza followed before fear could root her in place. They found the calf near the frozen creek, ice cracking beneath its trembling legs. Caleb moved too quickly, misjudged the ice, and plunged waist deep into freezing water. Without thinking, Eliza threw herself forward, grabbing his coat, bracing her boots into snow, hauling with strength born from desperation. For a heartbeat, just one, Caleb saw fear in her eyes. Not fear of him. Fear of losing him. They made it back to the ranch soaked and shaking. Inside, before either could speak, Eliza pressed warm cloth against his skin, hands steady though her own body trembled. "You could have died," she whispered. "So could you. I didn't care." The confession slipped out unguarded. Caleb stilled. No one had chosen him over safety before. Not since the fire. Not since he'd believed himself cursed by survival. "Eliza," he said carefully, "why did you come here, truly?" She exhaled slowly. "Because I had nowhere else to go. But I stayed because, this place doesn't feel empty. Not anymore." His hand lifted, hesitated, then brushed a loose strand of hair from her cheek. His scarred fingers were rough. Gentle. And for the first time since the fire, Caleb Turner felt something dangerous. Hope. If this story is touching your heart so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that even in the coldest winters of life, love can still find a way to bloom. Don't miss what happens next.